In this video, we will explore expressing a function as a composition of two functions. This can come in handy in calculus when you're trying to do something called U substitution. So it's important to get this skill now so that when you get to that point in your math, you'll be able to identify an inner and outer function. The first example says, suppose h of x equals 5 square root of x plus 5. Find two functions f and g such that f of g of x equals h of x. So we want to figure out an inner function g of x and an outer function f of x so that if I plugged g of x into f of x using composition, I would get h of x. So what I want to do is I want to look at h of x. I have 5 square root of x plus 5. And think about what could be an inner function here. So I want to identify my g of x. And my idea here is to let g of x equal the square root of x. Then I have to figure out an outer function, f of x. So I know I have to account for that 5 and then times something plus 5. If I did 5x plus 5 and then plugged in the square root of x for the x in f, then I would get the h of x. So these are my two functions. And let me go ahead and check. So I'm going to check. I want to figure out f of g of x. And recall from previous videos that that's the same as saying f parentheses g of x, close the parentheses. And so that would mean plugging g of x into f for the variable. So instead of 5x plus 5, I'm going to write 5 times g of x plus 5. But g of x is square root of x. So this would become 5 square root of x plus 5. And if I've identified my functions correctly, this should be my capital H of x. And I just check 5 square root of x plus 5. That checks out. And so g of x equals square root of x and f of x equals 5x plus 5 are the correct inner and outer functions. Here's another one. We want to identify f of x as the outer function and g of x as the inner function so that f of g of x equals h of x. H of x equals parentheses 4x squared minus 3, close parentheses, to the 4th power. So let me go ahead and for my inner function, my g of x, I'm just going to pull everything that's in the parentheses, 4x squared minus 3. And for my outer function, f of x, I'm going to go ahead and put x to the 4th because somehow I have to account for that entire expression being raised to the 4th power. Let's check that our composition works out. So I want to figure out f of g of x. So remember that's f with g of x plugged in. And my f function is x to the 4th, but instead of x, I'm going to write g of x. So g of x to the 4th power. But I identified g of x to be 4x squared minus 3. So I get 4x squared minus 3 all to the 4th power. And that indeed equals my capital H of x. So I have correctly identified an inner function, g of x, equals 4x squared minus 3, and an outer function, f of x equals x to the fourth, because 4x squared minus 3, quantity to the fourth, is my h of x.